That just reminded me. Come on, man. Anybody want to say anything about Amy Trask?
Oh, damn it. Yes.
Come on, Amy. I got respect for
So
Amy.
did you
that's
watch
why
did you hear the clip?
I didn't hear the clip.
I don't know why she did that.
Yeah, I didn't hear the clip.
I'll get it.
But it's like, I got respect for Amy, so I'm not gonna go crazy on her.
So I was
That's
gonna
her
reach
opinion,
out
but
to her.
I was like, come on now.
I was gonna reach out to her. So tell everyone. Well, don't tell everyone. I'll play it.
Yeah.
Here is Amy. Did she join? No, she didn't. This is all right, Amy. Hang on. Relax, Amy. Shoot. Here's Amy Trask talking about the quarterbacks in the playoffs this week.
4 games this week. That means we have 8 quarterbacks. Did that math all by myself.
Good girl.
4 games, 8 quarterbacks, 7 terrific quarterbacks, and Brock Purdy. Now, Brock Purdy is a good quarterback. Make no mistake about it. Everybody be calm, 49er fans. I'm not suggesting Brock's not a good quarterback. He is. I simply don't put him in the same category as the other quarterbacks. So I'll say it again. 8 quarterbacks.
The other, I just hit pause. I'll let I love that woman to death. But the other quarterbacks also include Jared Goff.
Come on, man.
And I love Baker Mayfield, but I don't know.
Quarterbacks. 7 terrific quarterbacks and Brock Purdy.
What don't you like about him?
It's not that I don't like him. It's not that I dislike him. He does things very well. He is surrounded by a tremendous, tremendous supporting cast, both on offense and defense. He is a good quarterback. I don't put him in the category of the other 7. Of 4.
Man, that was just such a that was such ridiculous. A bizarre
the
breakdown.
7 didn't even look at it like, well, okay, there's 3 or 4 that I don't put him in the category of, but maybe he's Goff, maybe he's Baker. Just no, all 7 are terrific. Okay.
Like if you I don't know.
I don't even know what the point of that was.
James, what do you? It felt like she had a point to make about because she delivered that in a dramatic fashion, right? Like she delivered that in a very specific dramatic fashion. She was trying to make a point about Brock Purdy, which I don't quite understand. James, do you?
No, I don't. Like, look, 3 years ago, the Niners were in this same situation where there are 8 teams remaining, right? And it was like Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Matthew Stafford, Tom Brady, Ryan Tannehill, and Aaron Rodgers, and then Jimmy Garoppolo. For me, there was no question that Jimmy G was either the 7th or the 8th best quarterback. Like, you could say Tannehill, you could make an argument either way with him and Tannehill. The other guys all are guys that you could see winning a Super Bowl or have won a Super Bowl or made it to a Super Bowl. Even if they hadn't done it yet at that point, they still were that good, right? And you knew that your quarterback was not good enough, and that's why I think they go out and they trade picks for Trey Lance, and they tried to go get one of those guys, right? But you found one of those guys, and he just put up better numbers than Patrick Mahomes this season, way better numbers. I think Patrick Mahomes threw 26 touchdowns. Like there are a lot of things that, like, you could say CJ Stroud is probably going to be a better quarterback than him. Okay. But this year, Brock Purdy was a better quarterback. And we can go through like most of the teams like
Love.
Well, yeah, like Jordan Love. He's to me, he had a great final 7 weeks of the season, but he's not. So if I'm going to put like Brock Purdy in the conversation, like where do I rank him out of all of these quarterbacks? It might be 4th. It might be 5th. It might be 6th at the lowest, but I don't think so. Like, who else are you going to put up there? So I don't get it, because this is not about, hey, if you put this quarterback in that situation, what would he do? Like, you got 8 teams left. This is his team. You can't like make up some imaginary, Steven Reyes thing on The Ringer. I think that's who it was, that like, oh, like we're just going to put guys wherever I want to put them because it's my list and you guys can kiss my bleep. That's not where we are. Like, these guys are really, really like over analyzing Brock Purdy. And has he won a big game? I don't know. You know, he's
Absolutely.
won as many playoff games in his career as Dak Prescott.
Yeah, he's won a big game. He's beaten the Cowboys in the divisional round. It was a
Yeah.
big game. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Handled that. You say people can say whatever they want. I don't know how they rate beating the Seahawks in the wild card round, throwing for I think 350 or some yards in that game or whatever the case may be. I just with Brock Purdy, I haven't studied the game of football the way Amy Trask has, and other people who say this stuff. But I don't I just don't know what they're watching. Or maybe it's hard to say they're not watching because I'm sure they are. Niners are one of the premier teams in football. But like what if you're talking about Brock just doing it because the people around him, do you see the throws that he's making? Do you see the high level throws that he's making? The pinpoint accuracy every time, the decision making. I don't really know what they want out of a quarterback at this point. He's got everything that you want out of a quarterback outside of Lamar Jackson's speed, I guess.
He's a
But
better pocket passer than Lamar Jackson, though. Like
I
I don't know. Like
think he's a
it,
better quarterback than Josh Allen. He's been that this year, and they love Josh Allen. I
yeah,
think he's a better quarterback than him.
yeah. And I mean, did they not watch what Brock Purdy did to the Cowboys or what he did to Philadelphia? I mean, they broke Philadelphia flat out, just broke them. Now, you can go back and say, well, he didn't step up in that 3-game stretch where, their field goal kicker lost them a game in Cleveland. They got like a
Minnesota.
crazy, really good version of the Minnesota Vikings, and then Joe Burrow was healthy for one of the few times all season long and torched them. Like, sure, he wasn't good in those games, and he wasn't good in the Ravens game, but the other 12 games, he was, for the most part, exceptional. And you can't take away the fact that, like, at what point do you look at a guy and say he threw for 4,400 yards and 31 touchdowns? It is what it is. Those are his stats. They'll be his stats. Like, you can't go back and just erase his stats because you don't think that he's as good as that. I don't know. This isn't like the year Scott Mitchell throws for like 35 touchdowns and he was just a bad quarterback that happened to have one good season. That's not what this is. This is
Yeah,
a young quarterback that can grow to be a great quarterback.
and we can leave this after I say this, but he's done it since the second he stepped on the field.
Yep.
The second he stepped on the field, now probably 20 games ago or something like that. From the moment he stepped on the field, he's been making high level passes, high level decisions, and game changing throws from the second he came on the field. So it's whatever. I just don't understand kind of what they're looking at.
Yeah, a weird assessment from someone whose opinion I value very, 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 very much.
Yeah.
Our 1320 Kings Insider of the Insiders, James Ham, with us here on Dealing with KC, brought to you by Sky River Casino. Hammer, before we get too far down the road, did you happen to catch that clip of Chris Haynes? Chris Haynes talking on a podcast that he believes something happened with Pascal Siakam and the Sacramento Kings that soured Siakam on Sacramento. He said he was going to do a little bit more digging, check with some other people. Have you heard anything along those lines? I'm guessing you haven't, but have you heard anything along those lines about Siakam potentially souring on Sacramento and maybe that's why the deal fell apart or a potential deal fell apart?
No, I have heard a little bit of murmur that that the Raptors tried to change a deal at the last second, and also just that it's possible that the Kings weren't interested in a 5-year, $250 million deal or a 4-year, $192 million deal, that they would have wanted a lower dollar figure to really match who he is today as a player and who he'll be over the next 4 to 5 years as a player. But I haven't heard anything that would have made him sour on Sacramento as an organization. I
Just
mean, look,
dawned on me. You know what might have soured? Hey, we're not going to pay you $250 million. Maybe that's
yeah.
what soured him on the Kings.
Well, I mean, it very well could have been that they all were in a room and they had a conversation like, what does this look like? And would you be willing to sign? And he could have said, well, what are you offering? Under the guys that the Raptors are in the room and saying that,
Of
are
course.
part of the discussion, right? And it could have been like, hey, look, this is what we would hope to sign you to. And it'd be like, oh no, that makes me have a sour
Sour.
stomach. I want to leave now. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, well,
I'm going to
well,
text Woj that it's over. Or Shams. It
yeah,
was Shams. I'm sorry. I'm going to text Shams that talks are over.
yeah, and I mean, like, look, all of these, like, that is such a complicated deal because
Yep.
you're all in on an almost 30-year-old player, and then he wants all this money, and you understand, like, if you're doing like basic capology, that you're not going to be able to pay all these dudes a couple of years down the road. You're going to be in all kinds of cap hell, and you're going to have to find ways to bail yourself out. And so one of those guys isn't going to be around. And the one guy who probably is a guy that still owed 60 million bucks when he's 34 years old. And that's not easy. You're not going to be able to move that contract, or there's a good chance you're not going to be able to move that contract. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's complex. All of these deals, they have their own pluses and minuses. We've talked about it, like you could go chase a guy like Jeremy Grant who doesn't rebound at all, but he plays good defense and he can score. You can chase a Kyle Kuzma, I think you should be questioning his motivation as a basketball player, but his contract's incredible and his numbers are solid, and maybe he does fit next to these guys. Like whatever deal you're going to look at, they all have pluses and minuses, and you have to take a calculated risk and try to minimize that risk as much as possible by collecting as much information on a player and on the team you're dealing with throughout the process. But that's why Monty McNair makes a big bucks. He's got a complicated job.
Where do you think they are as an organization right now when it comes to feeling like they need to make a move? Do they feel like they need to make one, or are they just like, well, if we get one, that's cool too, but we're not pressed to do something?
No, I mean, I think that there's certainly expectations within the organization, and those expectations right now are being tested greatly. Right? This team, a week ago was 9 games over 500. They've lost 4 in a row. I don't know if you guys noticed, but 50 Cent was in the crowd. Mitch Richmond was there. MC Hammer was there. Like a bunch of Giants players. Like that game last night that's not the show you want to put on if you're Vivek Ranadive. And if you
Kings
can't tell
lost
that
their homecoming.
yeah, if you can't tell that there was something off with that team last night, that it's been off for, maybe a month or two, it just looks something is weird with this group, and they've got to figure it out. And one of the easiest ways to figure things out is to mix it up. And I don't think the Kings need to make a trade to make a trade. I do think they need to make a trade because they plateaued. And, we're starting to see some players step up and be better. And maybe that can have an impact. Guys like Kevin Herter, guys like Keegan Murray. If they can start matching what we've seen from, all of these other guys, then, you know, what we've seen from Fox and Sabonis and you know and Monk all season long, maybe you start to see the Kings of last year kind of take shape again. But I don't know. It's a little rough out there right now.
Yeah, this team of last year isn't going to take shape, Harrison James, when one of their starters has 2 points, 1 rebound, and 1 assist. Or
Yeah.
when one of those starters, and I'm sorry to continue to pick on him, has 12 games with 1 rebound or less.
Mhm.
That's a problem. And if Mike is going to go out there screaming about rebounds, which he's stopped doing, probably partially because he recognizes one of his starters is in fact not rebounding.
At this point, he's the only one. Keegan had 9 boards last night.
That's facts.
Domas keeps doing what he's doing.
Yeah,
Kevin Herter out there working.
it's tough. Like we looked at it today, Kyle and I, like per 36. Like Harrison Barnes is 16th on the team in rebounds per 36 minutes. Like an NBA roster is 15 dudes. So that means you got dudes that are above him that are either like Juan Toscano Anderson who's on a 10-day, which again that 10-day should have expired by now, or it should be anytime.
It
I'm
did.
not quite sure,
Yeah. Saw that it
but
expired there. I think Keith Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said that.
yeah, but we
Early.
haven't seen any announcement on that.
Yeah,
So
you're right. You're right. Yeah.
yeah, whether he's still there or not, because you can sign up to 2 10-days. And then after that you have to either they have to, waive you, or you just move on, or they can sign you for the rest of the season. We're not to that point yet. You got to get past February 8th before we see any of that. But like, look, I'm with you. Like, you have to find somebody who can do something other than what Harrison Barnes is doing. And he's under a tremendous amount of stress. This is, like his name is being mentioned every day in trade, rumors and everything else. But he
Oh, you've
also
been in
needs
this
to.
league like 10 years.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know, but you
Like,
also
and
you
I
gotta.
don't mean to be insensitive to that. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not trying to be like unfair, but like, bro, you've been in the league 10 years. You've been traded like 3 times.
Yeah. Yeah, but you
I
got to
don't
go
know.
and perform. I think that's it, right?
That's what I'm
You
saying.
you
That's
do.
it.
Yeah, you got a job.
Yeah.
That's it.
No,
You're
I
not
know, and
traded yet.
especially on the glass. Especially on the glass. Like, I don't
Bro,
understand that part of it. Like,
the trade deadline is 3 weeks away.
yeah.
This is what we're doing for the next 3 weeks?
Well, hopefully not. Hopefully they figure out a way to get through this, because as of right now, they just seem rattled. Like, you had a couple of bad losses, not a couple of bad
Gut
beats.
punches. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Not that you did you did anything. Well, you missed your free throws, but like that Milwaukee loss. That's just such a blow. Losing, when you got a lead and you miss a couple of free throws. You could have gone up 6 with 18 seconds left, and you end up losing. That's brutal. And then you come back and you got 22-point lead, and you blow it in the fourth quarter. Like, these are hard losses. They're not like the other ones that you just like, okay, we got to forget that one. Be a goldfish. Let's move on. Like, that's not what we've seen. These are tough ones that stick with you, and they got to figure out a way to, like, mentally clean the slate and get out there. And they got a weekend. This is like one of the rarest things I've ever seen where a team has Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off. Totally bizarre. But yeah, maybe they come back refreshed, renewed, focused, and ready to roll on Monday.
They're at Tiger tonight.
They might be at the R&B brunch.
They might be there. So I'm
Oh.
fine. I'm through. Where do you start, James? You talking about fixing this thing, correcting thing, wiping the stuff. Like where if you're Mike Brown, I'm assuming they're off today. I have no idea.
Yeah, they're
You're
off
Mike
today.
Brown. What's the first thing you're saying to this team tomorrow at practice?
It's a good question. You know what? At this point, the first thing I think I would say would be, what do you guys think? Where are we? How do we get through this? Are there any grievances? What do we need to put out on the table right now?
Do you ask
How do
the
we?
Jason Anderson question from last night? If you're Mike Brown, do you walk in and you go, "Are we still together? Are we? Is this still us?
No,
Are we still together?"
I don't think so, because I think we saw that answered by Domantas Sabonis last night. I do. Like, Domantas Sabonis said it very clearly. Like, no, we're still good. We still love each other. We're still a team. We still have each other's backs.
Yeah, there's a
But,
couple of guys though I'd make answer that question,
well,
including
yeah, but
40.
yeah. I mean, I guess, but I don't think that that's the problem, that he's turned on them. Because look, there's a big difference between.
Harrison Barnes' heel turn is wild.
Well, no, but
Oh my
there's a big
God.
difference
No, I
between who's
agree with you.
who's in your locker room and who's on the floor with you, and the business side of it that's on, that's up above. Like, if you go in the practice facility, there's the 2 courts, and then up above them, there's a wall of windows, and there are offices in those that include Monty McNair's office, and I think Vivek has an office up there, and Like there's offices up there that overlook the court. The decisions that are being made up there and the decisions that are being made down on the court are two totally different things. And if you're Harrison Barnes, that's what you have to think of the whole time. Those are your brothers that you're going into a game with every single night and trying to come up with a win. And you got to do the best you can for them in that moment. And then if that's not where you are at the end of the season, it's unfortunate. And especially because I know he wants to be here. And, he signed a 3-year deal with the intent to be here, not a 3-year deal with the intent to be traded. And, that's even, he has insurance put in, 50% trade kicker that helps out. But getting traded in the NBA mid-season is really difficult for a lot of these guys. And I know it's violins and stuff, but someone said, "Oh, he makes 17 million bucks. He should be just fine." Like, look, he almost got traded to a different country. He almost got traded to Canada, 3,000 miles away. And whether his wife and child can pick up and go with him or not, a lot of times that's not what happens. They've got school, they've got things going on, they've got businesses, they've got other things that are happening here. And these guys go and live in a hotel for 6 weeks or 12 weeks until the end of the season, and they don't see their family hardly at all. It is jarring for these guys. And I know a lot of people just like throw that out the window, but like there's a lot on these dudes' mind right now. There's a lot of like Harrison Barnes is one thing, but look at De'Aaron Fox has been right next to Harrison Barnes, locker to locker, for the last 4 or 5 years, 5 years, 5.5 years. Like that's his dude. That's his veteran. And like you're going through situations together as a team. It's rarely just you have your individual stuff off the court, but on the court, you're going through stuff together and there's a bond that's there. And like none of these situations are easy.
Getting traded to Canada on an election year probably isn't the worst thing either. Just, I
No,
mean,
probably
Harrison,
true.
like, you look at the bright side of this.
Be like, that's your problem now, guys.
Yeah.
Not
Sorry, guys.
mine.
Yeah.
I'm a Bret Hart fan now, buddy. I'm in Canada.
Well, I mean, did you guys see the thing with Siakam where Siakam getting traded from Toronto to Indiana instantly picked up $4 million in taxes? Like
Mm.
a tax break that big, like right away. So
He got a
Harrison
tax
might be
break
like,
going from Canada to Indiana?
Canada's tax bracket is 50% income tax.
Oh, Lord.
Jeez.
Yeah. So from going from there to
Over a
Indiana,
certain dollar figure, I'm assuming.
oh no, it's pretty universal, I believe. I'm not sure.
Wow. No.
Yeah,
All
but
right,
it's a
Canada.
lot.
Yeah. Canada, you've been ruled out.
Yeah,
I
that
thought
ain't going
California
there.
was bad.
That is
Yeah.
robbery.
Well,
So yeah, he
congratulations.
just picked up like 4.3 million bucks or something. Like, hey, there you go.
No,
Yeah.
salute to Siakam. I mean, he probably won't notice with the 250 coming his way, but still, anytime you can find $4 million, salute.
I think Buddy Hield might tell him about it. I'm just saying.
Well,
Yeah.
Facts.
Facts.
Hey,
It'd be like that sometimes.
you know, you asked the question of what Mike would say. I don't know if it would be the first thing he would say. I think it'd be one of the first things, and it'd be one of the tone setters for practice. Is I'm a believer. It could be wrong, and it could be completely different in the NBA. I'm a believer of sometimes you give a stern tongue lashing, and sometimes you give them a swift kick in the butt. Sometimes you give your players a hug. Sometimes it calls for a hug. Sometimes it calls for you guys, let's get closer now because we're all we got. We're all we got right now. Everybody thinks we suck. We're all we got. If we're going to get out of this, we have to come together. And if I was Mike Brown, that probably would be how that would be the tone for practice.
You're going to go hug everyone.
We got to do
serious.
this together.
Okay.
We got to do this together.
Well, that's
And
what I'm saying, Kenny.
And everything. Domas talked about it in a video that you had is, hey, we're still a tight group. We've got to come together right now. That's the only way we get out of this.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm saying. Like, get everybody in the room. Like, where are we? What do we need? What do you need from me? What do I need to give you as a player? Like, how do we get on the same page right now? How do we put whatever it is that's broken with us, whatever it is that's like bugging us, it's under our skin, whether it's on the basketball court or it's off the basketball court, how do we clear that up right now? And how do we move forward? And if there's something that's bugging you guys, if there's a reason why you're frustrated with this or this, let's put it out there right now. Let's just have an honest conversation. And if not, you know what? Let's just sit here and hang out with each other. Let's get on the basketball court. Let's make this a fun day. Play a couple of games that make sense, that are lighthearted, and like let's figure out a way to like connect right now. And like sometimes that's what you need. Like this, the missing free throws is like I keep saying it. It's a clear symptom of something, and I don't know what it is because like it's a lack of focus for sure. But what is causing that, and why is it that it keeps popping up? And if you can figure some of these things out, I think you can go a long way towards piecing this thing together.
Well, real quick to that point, Domas talked about it last night a little bit in that clip, and he's right. Now I don't even know if it's focus. It's just something that is messing with him. Like
we keep talking about it.
It's because it keeps happening,
Yeah.
and it's one of those things that
self-fulfilling prophecy,
self-fulfilling, or like when hitters are in slumps and they're like, you can't see the simplest thing in front of you. Like that's the answer to get out of the slump is right in front of you, and you can't see it because you're so deep.
The forest through the trees.
Yeah. And I think they're in their own heads a lot. Malik went 1 for 6.
That's insane.
Malik is a 90% free throw shooter and has been his entire life.
Yeah.
And
you could see him. You could like the look on his face after those 2 free throws.
Yeah. And it's something
brutal.
I don't know if they're going to be like a great free throw team moving forward. It's not something that is going to last all season long, but it can be something that lasts for like 2 weeks. And then,
but hasn't it already? It's lasted to this point. It's just worse now.
Yeah, to this degree, this is something that just lasts until one day they shoot one game, they shoot like 85% from the free throw line.
Then it's gone.
And then we're not thinking about it on this level again.
Right. Yeah. We'll come back. We'll continue to try to fix the Sacramento Kings with James Ham, with D'Lo and Casey return here on Sacramento Sports Leader, ESPN 1320. There. Right back.
I agree, Soren. Take him to Sky River.
Well,
there you go. That might be the answer right there. Yeah, I'm intrigued. Like I haven't looked game in and game out what their maybe I can look at team splits. Okay. Let me see. Splits as a team. I bet you it's just hiding in here, and it'll be like, what in the world? Okay, so the Kings, again, they're 23 and 18. So that's actually relatively equal number of things. In their wins, they actually have more turnovers than they do than in their losses. They have more steals in their wins. 31.5 assists per game in their wins versus 25.6 in their losses. So that tells you the ball gets sticky. Free throw percentage in their wins, 73.2, and their losses, 71.7. But the true shooting, this might be the biggest one, Kenny, and it's something I think you've brought up multiple times. 3-point percentage in wins, 40.5. And their losses, 32.9. Like you don't hit your threes, you live and die by the three. So
that could be it. And one of the things that I think Will Z talks about in that, and if Will Z, if you're looking, or you're listening, excuse me, one of the things I always talk about is the looks that they get, right? I don't think the looks change. I think they still get this around the same amount of wide open 3-point shot looks in wins and losses. They just, for whatever reason, aren't hitting them at the same clip.
Actually, hang on. I think I was wrong with some of those numbers. What was I looking at? Why is there 2 different 3-point percentage? Oh, opponents 3-point percentage. Yeah, and their losses This might all come down to like the same thing that Mike Brown keeps harping on, flat out, just defense. Like in their losses, they allow their opponents to shoot 51.9%, 41.9% from three. And their wins, it's 46.3 and 37.
Last night was a mess defensively in that first half.
Yeah, I mean, did you see Mike like explain what was happening there? That
I didn't
wasn't like he's like, hey, it's not just the guards, man. Like at what point he's like, our basic rule is for the weak side defender to slide down and cut the baseline. He's like, where were they? Like it didn't matter how many times they talked about it. Like it was whoever was defending McConnell was on an island by themselves. He's like, that's just not what we're trying to do here. It was not supposed to be one-on-one. Somebody's supposed to stop baseline and stop him from doing that.
Every single time. Every time he had an opportunity to go baseline, he was going baseline.
Mike also brought up an interesting point. He says that McConnell goes way under the basket, really close to the inbounds, and then comes back out from behind the basket to lay those balls up. So he's using like the backboard as like as part of his defense. And he's so quick with it. And you think he's so far under that he can't get back. And then he finds a way to get right back to the rim. So, yeah, I don't know. I thought it was interesting because there aren't a lot of players who just do that exact thing, go baseline like that all the time, again and again.
He was cooking their asses last night.
Oh, yeah. And as soon as they tried to take it away, then he just started dealing. So he ended with 20 and 10. Didn't it feel like he scored like 37? Like if someone told me TJ McConnell scored 43 points last night, I would have been like, okay, that makes sense.
Well, the frustrating thing for me was all his shot attempts were in the paint. I mean,
he scored 20. That's all he scored. Like he was like their third leading scorer, I think.
He got in the paint for those shot attempts.
Oh yeah.
Well. It's like, come on, man. Give him a step. Give him a step back up, half a step, and try and contest the shot if need be, but give him that.
Yeah.
Coming back, James.
It's funny.
All right. I don't think we fixed anything during the commercial break either. We'll continue to try to work on the Sacramento Kings. And as James laid out there a moment ago, like we'll come back here Monday and it's going to be the same conversation because the Kings don't play for the next couple of days, which could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing. Like they've done hey, we got to get right back there out there on the floor and it hasn't worked. So let's try something different. They got a couple of days off. Maybe just getting away from each other today will help them. And then whatever they have planned for the rest of the weekend, they can address some of these issues. You brought up the free throw stuff a minute ago, Hammer, and how now it's just living in their head. And you saw Malik's reaction after missing the two there at the end, and Domas saying, I just someone asked him like, how do you get better in that? Said, well, we're practice them, like we keep practicing. Now it's in our head, and I wonder how much of not playing well is in their head. Like he just like kind of acknowledged like a component to the game that it's just it's in their head. It's being talked about now. It's like all you can see. I wonder how much of TJ McConnell getting to the basket 50 times and then Mike 5 minutes after the game ends says exactly what they did wrong, which matched exactly what Mike Bibby said he would do during the broadcast to stop TJ McConnell. Like there's a clear disconnect somewhere. And this group and that coaching staff is going to have to spend the next couple of days trying to find it and fix it.
Yeah, and maybe that's what it is. Maybe, I think every team is different, right? So maybe they could use like a field trip to San Francisco or to Santa Clara on Saturday to go watch the game together. They all get a box and they just sit there and hang out and watch a 49ers game. And maybe that's what they need. Because Mike Brown's son is on Kyle Shanahan's staff. He's a quality control manager or something like. So he's there in Santa Clara. maybe that's something. Or maybe it's we need 3 really, really hard days of practice. Everybody get here early. Everybody get ready. We're gonna work this thing out. Maybe, hey, maybe they need to have a conversation with the coaches on the outside. Maybe they need to say, let's do the old players only meeting. We got to find ourselves. And, that's possible. But I feel like where Domas was last night was, man, we just lost 3 games barely. We barely lost all 3 of those. Sure, we did not play well in Philadelphia, but the last 3, like we could have won all 3 of those. We could have easily had a 5-1 road trip. We easily could beat not on a 4-game losing streak, but on a 3-game, 4-game win streak. And I get it. Like maybe that's just they don't feel like they're that far away, but it's also possible that it's that Domantas Sabonis is just such a basketball junkie and like a hooper that all he can think is how close they were to winning and not realizing like how far away they were from winning
Mm.
and how they, their own like the self-inflicted thing. That's what everyone keeps saying. That's, like they don't need to make a t-shirt of it like they do with everything else, but maybe they do. Like stop with the self-inflicted stuff. Stop forcing it. Stop trying to do too much. Play within the flow. Like everybody should succeed. And like maybe that's how they get back. But they're still 5 games over 500. Just because they're on a 4-game losing streak as opposed to the 3-game win streak they were on last year at the same time. Same record they had last year. They got a road trip coming up. It's not even that bad. Like there are wins out there for them. So, I think if they can have a real heart to heart here and like a sort of a reset button moment, at the midway point of the season, then I think they'll be just fine.
I don't like the shot you took at people who turn everything into t-shirts, by the way.
Put it on.
Hey,
took that a little personally.
I need to make a bunch of them for Kyle. Like me and Kyle, we have all
We
kinds
have
of things.
a large inventory of Smash Them Boys hoodies if you'd like those.
That one was not
that
cleared.
I don't know why that one didn't sell too well. I can't quite put my finger on it.
Once
but
again, that one was not cleared with anybody. It wasn't clear.
Well, that's just Dave Garcia being a fan of the show going, hey, you know what? Kenny says this all the time. Let's make it a shirt. And it's not as funny when you're walking around with that on your hoodie. But go ahead. Sorry to distract you.
I hear everything that you're saying, James, about, there's a number of different things internally that they could do to kind of get in a better spot. But I'll just ask you personally, you think they need to make a move? Like they need to shake something up in that locker room?
Yeah, I do. Like, and I don't know if it shakes something up in the locker room. I just like if your goal is to go from good to great, then you have to be honest about who you are. And you're not great yet. And in order to get great, I think you have to make a move that makes you better. And it's not make a move to make a move. You need to make a move that's not on the peripheral. That's not like your 8th, 9th, 10th guy. You can push a couple of guys down to 8th, 9th, 10th by bringing in the 4th, 5th, 6th best guy. But like you need to make something impactful here. And it's because you have plateaued. Like you got to a point where you don't want this to be who you are. Like you need to be better than what you are. And like everyone can see they still need the long, super athletic, defensive minded, like 3-4. It's obvious. It's not that like we're not like calling them out or anything. We're just saying you don't have that player. And until you find some of these pieces that are missing, then you're going to continue to have a major glaring weakness where half the teams in the league or 35% of the teams in the league have a player that you can't match up with. And you can hope that Keegan Murray can get to be that player and, either be that player that other teams can't match up with or be that player that that you can put on that player on the other team. But that's a lot to put on a young guy. Like, go get that guy. If you want Keegan to be your second best scorer, 20 plus point per game guy, then go get him the guy that can stand next to him and help support him to get him to that way, to that point. And I just don't think that that's where the Kings are. They're not there. Like, how many times do we have to say Harrison Barnes doesn't get a rebound before you say, okay, I need someone else that will get a rebound instead of Harrison Barnes?
Hmm.
And they're not hiding on the bench. Like, Kessler Edwards is not just like they're holding him back. Like, he just got sent to the G League so he could stretch his legs a little bit. And I'm not trying to dig in on Kessler. It's just, you need if you're going to be a really good team, you need really good players. And so that means you still have to go find a couple of them. You're not there yet. And again, that's okay. But be realistic about who you are and where you're going. And then hopefully you can get there by going out there and making a couple of moves.
And what if they don't?
I mean, I'm not saying that they're not going to make the playoffs or the play-in. I'm like, it's okay even this season to get through this season and say, okay, we need to address it this off season.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. But like, you have to be realistic about who you are and where you are. Like, it's always possible that this team just gets on some crazy hot streak, that all of this just seems like a distant memory 2 weeks from now, and they're riding a 6-game win streak and they're cruising along, and they're
Well,
up
there
to
is a
11.
certain level of pressure and uncertainty that we talked about at the beginning of this conversation that is gone on February 9th. Could that have a positive, or that, I'm not asking you, could it? Obviously it could. Maybe that has a positive effect on this team. And I still think their ceiling is probably exactly the same, but maybe this extreme roller coaster that we're experiencing right now, maybe that settles down a little bit. And instead of a roller coaster, maybe it's just some bumper cars the rest of the way.
Yeah, you got to hope that their floor isn't lower than you think. Really, you do.
Sure.
Like, I mean, I think the ceiling is probably roughly still the same. I think it's probably still like first, second round of the playoff team.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have this type of roller coaster season, the first thing it does is it impacts where you're playing your first and second round playoff games.
Sure.
So that's the first thing, is you lose home court advantage. People forget, like, that was a big deal last year to have home court advantage, although it didn't work out all that well, especially game 7. But like, that's the first thing that you lose. So I don't know. Like, this team, to me, it feels like a team that, for whatever reason, like, something's been hanging over their head for a while and they can't figure it out, and they gotta take another step. And a lot of times that means that they've gotta make a move. They've got to make a move that helps them become a better team, that increases their talent level and gives them a better chance at winning. And it's got to be a player that fits what they're doing. And again, not to knock on Harrison Barnes, but like, you can find a player that can play better defense than him, that can shoot the ball close to what he does at the 3, but that gives you just way more opportunity, way more flexibility, way more options than what we're seeing so far. And that player might struggle to get the shots too, but if he can average 5 or 6 rebounds a game, or if he can play stellar defense, then he brings a different value to the team. And that's kind of where I'm at. Like, you don't make a move to make a move. You make a move because you have to, because this is where you're at as a franchise.
Do you think De'Aaron Fox and Malik Monk, not that they're done for the season, but do you think they're kind of going through a spot where they're out of gas a little bit?
I don't know. I wrote at the Kings Beat, I do my weekend review, and I tracked the previous 4 games where they were like 4-1, right? Maybe they were 2-2 over the 4 games that I covered, but the common denominator in all 4 games, except for the final game, which is the one where Kevin Huerter went off for 28 points, was Fox, Sabonis, Murray, Monk. Fox,
Mhm.
Sabonis, Murray, Monk. Fox, Sabonis, Murray, Monk. It's like 4 dudes carrying
Yep.
all the weight.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, Kevin Huerter's like, I got this. And then we have some of the other guys make some mistakes and hurt you. And so, like, look, when you're 4 guys who are carrying all of the weight, you're going to have moments where you run out of gas or the weight gets too heavy and you need somebody else to pick it up. And so hopefully that's what we're seeing right now with Kevin Huerter. And hopefully we're seeing a young guy in Keegan Murray who's willing to take on more and more, because I that looks like what's happening right now. But at the end of the day, like, these guys do need help. They need to make sure that they've got, that they're 8 to 10 deep of guys that are going to be out there doing things that matter each and every night. And at this point, I don't think they can't write and pen what they're getting from a bunch of guys. And like the instability that Kevin Herter has shown, not just like throughout the first half of the season, but in the playoffs, through that stretch last year. It has to, if you're a GM, if you're a coach, it's got to be in the back of your mind that we're seeing a really good stretch from Kevin Herter for like 3 or 4 games, and that could snowball into 8 weeks of really good Kevin Herter. But is he the right fit? Is he sustainable and all that stuff? Right now, man, he makes them look totally different. And like, you can see why they were so good last year with Kevin Herter. But you can't have these, you know, 4 to 6 week stretches where he's just not the same player. And all of these things have to go into calculus, you know? You got to look at yourself honestly and say, can we re-sign Malik Monk this offseason? And if you can't, what do you do then? You got until February 8th to like make decisions. These are all part of like what's going on right now. And it's not, if you're a player and those things, all of these thoughts start seeping into your mind, maybe that's why you're missing free throws.
How much of this falls on Mike Brown? Obviously, the free throws, that's not a Mike Brown thing at all. But could be some other things with this team that you got to look at the coaching staff a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think like nobody's clean in this. Like I think Mike Brown knows that too. And to be honest, like I'll just keep saying this. They're 5 games over 500. They're still a playoff team right now. Like it just doesn't feel that good. So a coach has to take on some of the blame for what's happening. That's just the nature of the business. But he's also the coach that led you to 48 wins last year, and you're trying to build a structure and a culture that's different than it was before. And I think that culture is still there. You just got to find a way to get through this sort of weird area. And like, look, there are games where this team has come out and, Mike's been very like, we had a game plan. They did not run the game plan.
Yeah.
Or a game where they just flat out miss all their free throws and they lose, again, 2 of the last 3. If they don't lose these, if they win 2 of the last 3 that they barely lost, right? If somehow you win 2, we're talking about a team that's like right at 9 games over 500 again. So because
you know what the Kings record reminds me of? You ever like been watching League Pass or flip over to a game that you weren't watching? It doesn't have to be on ESPN, TNT, whatever. And the home team, you're coming back and they're coming back from commercial and the arena's going nuts. Crowd is on fire and the home team is down 15. And you're really confused as to why the arena is so lit with their team down 15. And then you find out they were just down 30. And that's why the crowd is. It's a 15-point game, but it's not a 30-point game anymore. It's like you look at the Kings schedule and you go, well, they're 5 games over 500. Yeah, but we're watching. And we see what's happening, and it doesn't, as you said, like it doesn't, it's off. Like it's not right.
No, I totally agree. And I think
a dumb analogy, but I always find it funny when like an arena goes nuts and the old Mark Jones, the lead has been cut to 15. The crowd's going crazy, and you're like, what is going on right here?
Sometimes you can feel it though. Like you feel like things are changing.
But every once in a while, you also
what fans are feeling right now, but it's the wrong change.
I agree, but I think sometimes you turn to that game, and what you don't realize is that some guy just missed 2 free throws, and everyone got cookies.
Well,
and they're just screaming to scream. They're just having a great time, but glad that they're not paying $6 for a cookie.
Greatest in-game activation in history.
Cookie.
The cookie crumble. Just shout out to Crumble Cookie, man. That is phenomenal stuff.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, like I said,
put that into the Kings playoff chances. Every Kings fan gets a cookie the further they slide down the.
I think they need a little bit of a reminder that they are a good team. You know what I mean? I sense that they need a reminder from each other and from the coach. Hey man, we still a good team. We're in a rough spot right now.
Yeah.
We're not gonna shoot. We may not be number one, but we're not gonna shoot 50% from the free throw line every game. We will get better at the free throw line. Just stay locked in, stay together, guys. That's what would be my message if I was on the team, man. Just let's stay together. Let's stay together. And one of the things we did talk about earlier, which we had a little bit more time to talk about, is I think one of the differences between this year and last year is I don't know if this team winning is the number one most important thing to everybody on the team. And last year, it felt like it was.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting. I mean, that's a
Not
lot
saying,
to unpack.
yeah, sorry, we did it with
Yeah.
3 minutes left. But like, it's not to say that I think they all want to win. I think they all want this team to win, but they might be distracted with contract or trade talks, and where they're going to be at in a month or 6 months is at the forefront, and then it's winning. Last year, it felt like because of the circumstances with the players, their contracts, where they were in their career, nothing else really mattered except for whether or not they could win. And if they could win, everything would fall into place. And I don't know if that's the case this year, right now.
Well, they got to find that. Like they got to figure that one out. And I think sometimes that's what that might be like the elephant in the room. Like, what are our motivations? Are we still all in? Are we still moving together? And I can understand someone like Davion saying, "Well, no, I'm not really. I got 1 foot out because you guys clearly have 1 foot out on me, and I'm not playing. I'm not in the rotation." But maybe that's not the case. Maybe you do get an all in from him. Maybe you do get an all in from Chris Duarte, who's out of the rotation again, or JaVale McGee, who's out of the rotation again. But I think at this point you need to have that conversation. Like, where are we? Where are we as a group? Because right now we're in a rough spot, and we need to figure out how we move forward together. And if you're not all in, like Mike has always said, if you're not all in, you can tell us that. You don't have to sign the banner, but we understand what that means. That means that you're not all in, and we'll find someone who is. And so sometimes that's a tough reality of the business.
I can't wait for them to have that conversation as a team and for Jake to ask Domas to expand on it and then Domas tell him to shut the hell up.
Yeah. I look forward to that. Because
we
Jake
had that
asks his
discussion.
questions in such a happy way. Jake's a happy guy. And
hey, you want to expand on what happened? No, I don't.
No. Also, get your stupid microphone out of my face.
I will not be answering that question. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Most unpredictable team in the league, man. Hey, and sorry to Domantas Sabonis. 21, 11, and 10. No coverage today.
Well, his teammates should apologize.
They absolutely should.
We would have talked about it.
Bro is racking up for 3 like Brody did.
0 for 3 in the second half.
Shot attempts? Man, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
That's insane. Goodness gracious. Hey, Herder was getting them up, though, and Keegan was getting them up. Salute to them. I mean, gosh, it's incredible to think the Sacramento Kings had a 27-point score, a 21-point score, 31 and 24, and lost.
And a triple-double.
To a team without their best player, who apparently sat out last night so he could return tonight with Pascal Siakam, his new teammate.
So their two best players weren't there.
Tyrese, you're getting clowned forever for your dramatic ass exit for something that kept you out 5 games. Go ahead, Hammer.
Oh no, he was all over the place last night. He was engaged in what was happening. I think he was booing Buddy.
He was
Hield
booing Buddy Hield. Yeah,
it's amazing.
That's why Tyrese will always be one of us. He was booing Buddy Hield.
Yeah. And I swear, Jalen Smith
played a good game.
It looked like at one point Jalen Smith was thrown up in the trash can. They also lost Isaiah Jackson in the middle of the game. Like, sometime he hit his head at some point. Like, there was all kinds of weirdness.
I think I saw you tweet that. Did you tweet that?
Yes.
That kid was thrown up in the trash can.
Yeah, he was right by my guy Larry. He was like literally like hugging the bowl like of a
Oh,
trash
poor
can.
brother.
That's
Oh,
what it looked
man.
like. You know, I don't know if he had someone hold his glasses or what.
I don't know. He had a nice little game last night, so he might throw
Yeah.
up again tonight.
Real quick before we get out of here, I meant to talk about this earlier, but it's been a busy day. Just want to say rest in peace, Sports Illustrated. Maybe we'll
Oh,
talk
yeah, I
about it
wanted to
more.
talk about that
Talk about it
too.
more on Monday.
Yeah,
but
that's
that is
awful.
a sad
That is
day.
absolutely
We'll
awful.
talk about that more on Monday because
Okay.
man, memories.
Yeah, awful. That is just terrible, terrible, terrible news.
Yeah.
Make sure you check out the Kings Beat